So one of the first things we ever did in this studio was we did a Halloween pod, and I was an astronaut, Cowboy Reed. You remember that a couple years ago?
That's right. We had 2 astronaut uniforms for you, and the best was you pulled your visor up and you were just breathing into the mic.
Yes, I was breathing into the microphone.
Was it an orange pumpkin suit
the
white suit?
I had the white one and I had the orange one. The orange one, what do they call that? The rise on the pants was too high, so I couldn't get the pants on, which is a problem because it's all one
crotch
suit.
issues going on.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
So I got a real astronaut in here today for the first time. I was joking with Leland Melvin, who joins us in studio, which is awesome.
Good to be here, man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
It's good to have you. It's been 4 years in the making, basically.
I know, right? Since our on-stage panel at University of Virginia.
Can I tell you something, man? I feel outclassed a lot in my life, but when I showed up and they were like, hey, you're going to talk with a few people today about, I don't even remember what we were talking about, honestly, but I was just so shell-shocked by the resumes of the people on the stage, including yourself, who...
Everyone has on red underwear, man. It doesn't matter, you know?
The first is actually, mine's yellow.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So
thanks for sharing that, by the way.
No problem.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I'm breaking the ice. But this is the first astronaut, needless to say, we've had in Studio J, as we call it. And we were talking offline. Is there one personality trait or one skill set, you know, because we were talking about kids in school,
right,
you know, that dictates whether or not you can become an astronaut?
Yeah, I think the main personality trait is the same personality trait to be a ball player. It's that you put the work in and you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that mindset that I'm capable of doing anything, right? And we had a guy, John Harrington, the first Native American astronaut, who was in college. He was flunking out. He had like a D- average, and he just wanted to hike and go up on mountains. And he was with his surveyor, and the surveyor said, "Dude, you're a smart guy. What are you doing up here?" And just need that one guy to like reset him. He graduated from college, went to the military, and flew in space 2 times. So someone with a D- average becoming an astronaut. You don't see that. You don't hear that, right?
Yeah.
And it's possible if you get someone that says that you have access, opportunity, and belief in yourself.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with ball. That's it with anything, right?
Yeah.
You got to at some point believe that you are capable of doing that.
What were the barriers to you believing you could do it when you were a kid? I think we talked about this. I mean, I heard you talk about the speech you heard, one small step, one giant step, that whole speech that we all know, even if we're not astronauts.
Right.
You're hearing that speech as a kid. Did you feel like it was possible for you?
Well, I was a kid when Neil and Buzz walked on the moon. You weren't. How old were you when 1969?
I was a twinkle.
It was twinkle.
Yeah.
And your mom and dad's like, hey, there he is.
9-year-old Howie Long's on. Yeah, I'm 1985.
85?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm the kid holding the rabbit ears on the Sylvania black and white television set.
Yeah.
So I actually never saw the actual transmission.
Right.
But, you know, I knew that there were these 2 white dudes with crew cuts who were military. And, you know, my dad was in the military, so it wasn't a military thing. It was just like, I didn't see someone look like me. And that next day we went to play astronaut outside. And they said, well, what do you want to be? You want to be Neil or Buzz? I'm like, I'm going to be Arthur Ashe.
Right.
Because Arthur Ashe trained 5 blocks down the street from where I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia, on Pierce Street.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my dad talked about his intelligence, his athleticism. He was winning all these tournaments and stuff. And I was like, I want to be like him. So I had this role model that I was going to try to emulate. I started playing tennis. And so I never imagined an astronaut or working at NASA as something that was, for whatever reason, you know, maybe it was just that one moment that said, you can't do that. And fast forward, I'm working at NASA after, you know, stints in NFL and whatever for a minute. This guy says, hey, you'd be a great astronaut. And he hands me an application, and I look at it, don't fill it out. And that same year that I didn't fill the application out, one of my boys, he got in. And I said to myself, if that knucklehead could get in,
exactly.
You know, you see that competition thing, like your boys, and like, wait a minute, he did how many pull-ups? And so I applied the next selection and I got in because I saw someone who was a knucklehead, and if he can do it, I can do it.
Well, it's that competitive spirit.
A little bit.
And you're a ball player.
Yeah.
That's what people don't know. Give people your football background a little bit.
Yeah, so out of University of Richmond, so starting in high school though, I'm going to tell you this story. Senior year, I was on a running team, wide receiver on a running team. running down the sideline to catch the touchdown pass in the end zone, 3 minutes left. And I dropped the pass in the end zone. Go to the sideline. Coach Jimmy Green grabs my face mask. I'm ready to be benched. He looks at me and I said, look, get back out there and catch the ball this time. Yeah. Run the same play. Yeah. Catch it this time. There's a scout from Richmond who's walking out of the stadium, hears the crowd screaming the second time, and he comes back and sees me in the end zone doing a little dance.
He's on his way out.
Yeah, he's leaving.
Yeah.
Morgan Hout was the receiver coach.
Yeah.
And he said, if this guy can recover from such horrific failure, his friends are there, his boys are there, his parents are there, I'm going to give him a scholarship. $186,000 scholarship to the University of Richmond because I didn't give up. And that set a tone in my head that if you keep trying, you get these opportunities. And so went to Richmond, 0-10 freshman year, 3-8, 8-5 playoffs in the senior year. The Lions came down, the Denver came, and the Cowboys came. Did some scouting stuff. Got drafted to the Lions in 11th round, 86 college draft. Pulled a hammy in training camp. Played some preseason games. Then started at UVA in material science. And then they videotaped the courses and mailed them to Dallas. I got picked up by Dallas for free agency. And so I was doing material science at night and, Tom Landry and Danny White. Danny White's before your time too, wasn't
Yeah, Danny White's before my time.
Yeah, so Danny and I were going out to throw and catch a little bit, and I was stretching from my hammy, just trying to get loose. And we were about to do a 10-yard half-speed out. Tom Landry walks on the field. Danny sees Tom. I see Tom. I know what's about to happen. He does an audible to take it to the barn.
So he's like, fuck this.
I'm gonna show Tom here, I've got it.
We got to run the 9 route.
Yeah, we're doing the 9 route from a half speed out. And I see him. I'm like, oh, I better. I can't just go half speed. Yeah. And I take off and pull the hammy the second time, and that's the end of my career. So I thank Danny White for helping me get to space.
Yeah. Or Tom Landry.
Tom Landry.
With the peer pressure.
Right.
Tom deserves an assist, dude. The John Stockton in this situation, dude.
There you go.
What was Tom Landry like?
Ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
He, the rookies, he really wouldn't talk to. He'd see us and, maybe wave or something, but he only talked to Herschel. Herschel was there, Mike Sherrard, Danny, Steve Pallure, I think he was there, quarterback. Dorsett was there too.
Yeah, Dorsett.
Before he got traded to Denver.
Yeah.
So he was there for a minute, and I'll never forget, we were lifting, and Tony was like, hey, rookie, get out of my way.
Right. Yeah, that feels good, though, to get bossed around by Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take that. I've made it. If Tony Dorsett needs this bench press machine.
More than I do.
Yeah, we're good. I was gonna say, like, you have a little piece of equipment in Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny.
Yeah, my dad, you.
Yeah. I don't think mine is displayed as prominently as yours. So
I wonder if there's anybody between here and Lynchburg that's got something in the Hall of Fame. I think it's you and Howie Long.
That's funny. Yeah. When I went to space, my first mission, they called me up and they said, we want to send your jerseys up to the space station.
Right.
And they sent me a football and both my jerseys. So I took pictures in space with my jerseys on, and
that's cool.
It's kind of cool. And then
it's hard to get the jersey on at sea level.
But it's easy in space.
It's easy to get your jersey on in space?
You just float into it.
That's so damn cool.
That's why you got to go to space, man.
I would love to go to space. Nowadays,
when do you want to go?
Well, so this is the question. I got a friend who went to space. Yeah, I got a patch now.
You got your honorary astronaut patch, man.
I have an honorary astronaut patch. I think, like, if you try to get on the space shuttle, you just show them this.
No, take that to Elon Musk.
Oh, take it to Elon Musk.
While you're doing Twitter.
How do you feel about this? How do you feel about, like, the privatization of space travel?
It's fantastic because the more people that get the opportunity to see the planet from that vantage point, it changes the way you see humanity. Like my little pea-sized brain, when I look out the window of the space shuttle, we're going around the planet every 90 minutes. We see all of civilization, everyone who's down there working and living. We see, you fly over Manhattan, you fly over Virginia. When we come over Virginia, and I'm looking down, and my parents are probably having a meal. 5 minutes later, we're flying over Paris. And I'm up there with a French astronaut, Leo Eilharts.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, my parents are probably having wine and cheese, Leland. And then Yuri, the Russian astronaut on the board, he's looking over to Moscow. He says, my parents are probably having borscht,
potatoes and
borscht.
vodka.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that one little swath of time, we saw 3 hometowns of 3 different people, and it connects you in a way that nothing else can. It changes the way you see yourself with the planet and humanity.
You think if everybody went up to space, we'd be a lot better off? Like, we'd be able to solve a lot more of our problems at home.
I think people would see that if we don't work together in space, like if I flip the wrong switch, if Yuri flips the wrong switch, if Hans flips the wrong switch, we're all dead. And so you see the gravity of playing ball. Someone's pulling to do a block, you get paralyzed because the person didn't do his assignment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, highly functioning teams doing highly critical things. People get it, right? We get it. We get it in space. But I think back here on the planet, you don't see the time constant of something happening like to the planet, environmentally. Right. That's going to happen 50 years from now, 100 years from now. So I don't have to worry about it. But it's, it's exacerbated now.
Also makes you feel small.
It makes you feel big.
Or big.
When you look back from space.
Yeah.
You feel this, you see this beautiful planet. Think about it. It's a huge planet, but we get around the entire planet in 90 minutes. So I see the whole planet in 90 minutes.
Good Lord.
Right? You see a thunderstorm the next time.
Yeah.
Or it's getting dark and you see these lights coming on. That's the footprint of humanity.
Good
Wherever
Lord.
you see a light, you may see a fire in Africa.
Yeah.
In the middle of Africa somewhere, and people are living and working and making love, whatever they're doing, they're living, and I see them every 90 minutes.
What about geological features? Like, what's the most mind-blowing thing that do you see Nepal and like the Himalayas, or you see the Caribbean, or like what blows your mind from up there? I'm sure it all does, but
in the U.S. it was Crater Lake. You see this lake that's the deepest lake in our country, right? And it's at these levels of blue because it's so deep. It's like really, really deep, dark blue.
Yeah.
And then you're flying over places like the Caribbean, and I know maybe 5 definitions of the color blue, like navy blue.
Yeah.
Bluebird blue, light blue, turquoise, whatever. But you need like 30 more definitions of blue to describe the colors that you're actually seeing because they're so different and vibrant, man. It's just, it blows you away.
And all these people at the ISS are obviously from different countries and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is it a fun time up there? Or is it just like when you're not hitting the switch that could decide whether all you go pirouetting down into the atmosphere or like into a black hole? Like, is it fun in between those heavier moments?
We do stupid astronaut tricks.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So let's say you're
like
up
pranks
there.
and shit?
Huh?
Pranks and shit?
Yeah.
You get pranked in space?
So you'll ball up into a ball.
Yeah.
Someone will bowl you down into the astronaut pins, like bowling astronauts.
Who's the ball first?
Right. You draw.
How do you decide
you draw
who's the ball
straws.
first?
You draw
Okay,
straws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the little guy is easier to get in the ball, and you just push him down.
That's so cool. What's the ISS look like? What kind of rooms are in there? Like, what is there to do there?
Yeah, there's. It's the size of a football field.
Yeah.
So you look at the solar panels, and then you have these basically soda can looking things connected with radiators. And so you have these sleep stations. It's kind of padded inside. You've got a laptop that you can talk to your family on. You got your snacks and things in there.
Talk to your family.
Yeah.
Like Zoom, basically?
You can basically a Zoom call.
It's like a FaceTime.
Yeah. And you, so when I was up there, this is crazy. I had my birthday in space.
Really?
February 15th. And I was over working in the Russian segment, and my commander comes up and says, "Hey, Leland, you got to get your butt back to the flight deck. There's something over there you forgot to do." Mm-hmm. And so I'm floating. I'm like, swimming through the space station. I get up to the flight deck, and all of my family and friends are at NASA Langley Research Center in a conference room with a big happy birthday sign up. And my mom and dad, man, I mean, they're gone now, but they were there, and just, how your dad is so proud of, like, see his son, how you see your sons and you're proud. Mm-hmm. to see that pride of my father from space it was like life-changing. And they said, okay, we're eating your cake, but do some of that stupid astronaut stuff, you know? So I'm like doing a flip and my butt hits the screen and the camera is like going all over, you know?
Hell yeah. You're still a big kid up there.
You gotta be, man.
The longest you've been in space is how long?
So 2 missions, 565 hours.
565.
So that's about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
2 weeks.
Or so.
Is that daunting for you? I mean, like, you could have all these skills, I imagine, as an astronaut. I mean, I know that there's not one particular skill as we discussed, but you could be type A, you could be resilient, you could be highly intelligent. But if you're not good at sitting still, I know it's not all sitting still up there, but just being stuck somewhere. Yeah. Is that a barrier to entry? The claustrophobia?
No, that's a barrier.
Yeah.
Because to see if you have that right stuff, they put you in this thing called a personal rescue sphere. When you go down to interview to become an astronaut, it's this ball that's about this big, and you're curled up in it. They have a heart rate monitor on you. They have a beanie cap from the Apollo era, and you're supposed to stay in there until you freak. Now, I just went to sleep. You know, I was like, okay, I'm
popped
just
an Ambien.
Yeah. I don't pop an Ambien.
I bring an Ambien.
But
I'd be like, I'm ready.
But if you freak, you know,
yes,
you're not getting in.
So how long impress NASA? How long do you stay in there if you want to impress NASA?
They watch your heart rate and they just sit there and see if you're gonna. And it's really less the length of time than you start your heart rate going up and you're starting to freak out
because they can see,
they're watching.
They're
everything.
monitoring that. Yeah, you can't bullshit NASA.
Yeah. You're like, no, you try.
Yeah,
but you can't bullshit NASA.
So what's harder, training? Like a training camp at Richmond circa 1980, whatever it was, in the heat down there, or a Dallas training camp, or training to become an astronaut?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're different. I mean, the heat you have when you go do survival training.
Yeah.
And then you also bond with your team. We went on these hikes in Utah, like 10 days in Utah with backpacks, and you got to cook, find water, do all of that. So it's more, Knowles.
Knowles, yeah.
Yeah, we did 2 Knowles trips.
Yeah.
As a crew, as a team, to see what's going to stress you out. And like one of the pilot on my mission, my first mission, whenever he didn't get enough water, he would start to get snappy. And so in space, so he demonstrated that in Utah. In space, if he started getting a little snappy, dude, you need some water. Drink this water. So you get to know what are the trigger points for your boys and your girls, so that doesn't happen in space. Or if it happens, you can mitigate it,
Are there disagreements in space?
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it.
Ugly? You can't fight in space.
You can. I mean, you can go at it, but once you hit someone, then you're, whoa.
Yeah, it's like dream.
You're reacting off of it.
Do you ever have a dream where you can't, like, I always have this dream where, like, my punches just won't land. Like, they're going slow. I'm sure it's something psychological, and here I am. Some of you motherfuckers listening to this are all, dream analysts or something, or psychiatrists, but is it like that? It's so if you were to try to grab somebody in space, like.
So if you're against the wall and I'm pushing off from this other wall, I can land it and knock you out, right? Because you're not going anywhere, and that the force of my fist is going into your body. But if I were to be anchored on something and you're floating and I hit you, you're just going to react and float off of that. So I'm not going to be able to land it as hard and knock you out as though, if you were pinned or something.
But it is managing stress up there. I mean, it's a ridiculous hypothetical for me. Like, imagine people fight in space. But you just said it. Like, people, you're still human beings. You're not robots. So stress is a part of going up in space. And these are variables that...
Triggers. What triggers you? And if you know yourself, you know what's going to trigger you. So you say, hey, I'm about to get triggered. Let me fix this. Because up there, it's if something happens up there, it can be game over for the whole space station. I mean, for the whole space program. Let's say we lost the space station. They're not building another space station because all these components come from all over the world. The Russian segment, the European segment, the American segment, they're all pieces, parts that will never be built again, in a timely manner to put the space station back up there.
Until Tesla builds it or something.
Well, there's a company, Axiom Space, right now building a space station. They're going to have parts that attach to our current space station, And then once they deorbit the ISS, they're going to then undock their pieces and have their own space station. So you could go up there and, have another honeymoon or something.
That'd be kind of dope. I mean, getting up there seems like the issue.
No, why?
I mean, how claustrophobic is it to get up there? Michael Strahan, one of my buddies, just went up on the...
Is he claustrophobic?
Probably not, presuming he's not. And I don't think I am. I think I'm claustrophobic if it's for nothing. Like, if I'm not going anywhere, I don't want to sit in this fucking suitcase.
So if you're in an elevator...
But if I'm going to the moon, I might be able to stick it out.
Yeah, but think about it. You're in that seat. You're pulling 3 Gs, going through your chest, right?
Yeah.
It's a dynamic, kinetic experience as you're shaking, you're moving.
So you don't have time to think about a small space. No. You're just trying to...
And you're going to be in mission mode. You're going to be in... We got to get the win mode. We got to get to space safely. So the things that you have to do through training, that will help the crew, the team, get to space safely, you're going to be doing that.
Is that the most dangerous part of being an astronaut, the takeoff?
No, it's the whole thing.
The whole thing, holistically.
Because when we lost Space Shuttle Columbia, they were coming home.
Right.
And we had a piece of foam come off the tank, hit the wing, a hole about that big in the wing. And then when they re-entered into the atmosphere, it's like 3,000 degree plasma that came into the wing and melted it. So you can have problems coming home just like you can, even with no fuel. You can still have the environment take you out.
I mean, it's probably one of the most dangerous. Where would you...
I think race car. Well, we had 135 space shuttle missions and 2 catastrophic failures, so 1 in 70. I think race car is probably worse than that. No, maybe not.
Race car is better than that.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a dangerous job. So, when you'd go up to space, I mean, is it unhealthy to grapple with that possibility that you're not coming back? Or do you just lay it out there for people you love and, make that extra phone call? Or is it counter to the mission to even consider that?
But it depends on what the mission is.
Yeah.
If you're going up there to do some flips and stupid astronaut tricks and bowling astronauts, that's one thing. But if you're going up there to help, advance civilization, that's a whole nother. You're potentially giving your life to help your grandchildren's grandchildren have a better way of life.
Yeah.
And so in that mission, I think people are like, laser beam focused on, let's get this job done for our kids.
So what's an example of one of those missions where it's of the utmost importance? And
so building this outpost so that people can live there. We just sent up some tourists with a buddy of mine, Mike Lopez Alegria, and took them up. They did some experiments on water and different things. But I think, when you think about all the technologically advances and these space stations and stuff, I think the biggest thing is having people that used to fight against each other live and work together and get along for 6 months or for a year off the planet.
Right.
And if those people can come back from their respective spaces and say, look, we lived and worked together. We used to fight against each other. Let's get our stuff together, here on the planet. And I think the human part of existing is exacerbated when you go into a dangerous environment, but you figure out how to do it. Because people are stressed out. And if you're stressed out, you may resort back to, hey, I used to try to kill Americans because I'm Russian and we used to fight against the Cold War and all of this. Well, that's gone. And now you're trying to, befriend these people and live with these people from a long duration standpoint.
I think it's so interesting because we see it all the time in disasters. We're such a divided
people
world.
People come together under the disaster.
And when you're faced with an existential crisis as a group of people, I mean a small group of people, everyone helps one another for the most part.
Right.
I'm sure there are some bad actors
always
who choose number one, but it's the same thing, I suppose, in space.
Yeah. Because the consequences are so dire if you don't work together.
Yeah. What is going to space and seeing what you've seen, the Earth at the scale you see it, what does going up to space do for your faith, if you have faith?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, for me, looking at the planet and just thinking of all those billions of people down there working and living, and I'm blessed to have this moment to look back and see that, but also to turn around and look at the deep in darkness of space, and what's out there, what's up there, what happened after the Big Bang, you know, who's turning all of this, you know, it amplified my faith.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, my parents were always very, you know, religious, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. And I was always in church. But for me so I got to tell you this quick story. So, you know, I lost my hearing in my left ear.
Training.
I have no hearing in this ear.
Training thing?
The training accident. But before that accident happened, my parents were having their 35th wedding anniversary in Lynchburg. I was there with my cousin and her best friend. Her best friend's name was Jeanette. Jeanette said, Leland, something's going to happen to you. No one's going to know why it happened. You will be healed of this. You will fly in space, and this will be your testimony that you share with the world. That was on a Saturday. Sunday was the service. Monday, I flew back to Houston. Tuesday, I'm in this EVA suit, 5 million gallon pool, down 20 feet down, telling the test director to turn the volume up in the headset. When I got out of the pool, they popped my helmet off, and there was blood coming out of my right ear. I was completely deaf. And my hearing in this ear came back. I'm medically disqualified to fly in space. The doctor said, you will never fly in space because you only have one ear. And you only have one ear in the speaking frequencies only, not even high frequencies. So if sirens and things go off, I might not be able to hear it.
Right.
But that was her testimony to me. She was prophetic and all of that. And the day that this doctor said, I believe in you, signed me a waiver to fly in space. And so I called Jeanette. Her name was Jeanette. I said, Jeanette, your prophecy was spot on. So that was like, you know, reaffirming of, you know, the power of this ability to transform and to have this faith that you can do things.
Do you think it's possible that science, I mean, obviously it's almost a rhetorical question, seeing as what you've done with your life, but science can meet faith somewhere? Like we don't have it. Yeah. We don't have the full answer on either end of the
But we have people that are saying either, or, you know, it's either this or it's either that. Yeah. And it's both.
Somebody made this.
Right. Right.
What the first thing was it the Big Bang or the mystery of it? I mean, like everybody at this point has like, you know, heard hey, there's so many solar systems, there's so many galaxies. This is how small you are.
There's a black hole in our solar system, right?
I just heard the black hole.
Bro.
That's what it sounds like?
Dude.
Just, that's what the fuck it sounded like to me. It sounded like something that was eating planets and shit like that.
Oh, it is.
I know.
Think about the power and energy of a black hole capable of sucking in light. Light doesn't have enough velocity to not be sucked in to the black hole. And that's how we know where the black holes are, because it's the absence of light. Right?
Yeah.
But back to what you were saying about how do we know faith in God and all this stuff. Think about the James Webb Space Telescope that just got commissioned in space. Hubble telescope could see 400 million years back in time. The James Webb will see 100 billion, million years.
Another zero.
Yeah, another zero back.
Just another zero, dude.
Just another.
When y'all run out of zeros, it's like.
But you'll be able to see more granularity of what happened after the Big Bang.
No way.
Yeah. And so the more you see, the closer you are. Maybe we can make some inferences on what happened, how it happened.
So when is this new telescope dropping? Oh, it's here.
It's up there now. It's up there. They just commissioned it. They had to do all these series of tests and things to make sure that the optics were lined up.
So when do we get our information?
I think soon.
Really?
Soon.
That's going to be huge. Is there one?
Will you go down to NASA with me to?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. You kidding me?
Check it out.
Yeah. So what's the next piece of information that you're like waiting with bated breath on? Like, what's the thing you want to know? I know you want to know everything.
Do I want to know?
Yeah. Like we're on the cusp of figuring something out in space. What is that thing that you're like, this is what I'm wondering about. And there's a distinct possibility that I have the answer in my lifetime.
When the Lions will win a Super Bowl.
I got bad news for you. Even the astronauts can't figure that one out. Even the new telescope can't figure that one out.
What's up with that?
Can we get a telescope to look backwards and see why they couldn't win with Barry Sanders in the 90s?
I know.
You were a fan.
Why do you think?
Why do I think? Didn't have any help around him. Now, I was just talking to Brad Holmes about this, the GM for the Lions, and I asked him a tough question. I said, because you remember Barry wanted to be traded at the end for good reason.
Right.
And then Calvin, something about those Lions. But I asked him if he would trade Barry Sanders, because that would be the more progressive thing to do nowadays. A player wants out, I'm not going to hold him hostage. Let him go. And Brad said, I would never trade away a good football player. Obviously, he was skirting the question.
Even if he wants to go.
Right. And the funniest part about this is he just traded Matt Stafford.
So he's not doing what he says.
Yeah, exactly. So the Lions, I can't figure him out, but I'm excited about Dan Campbell. We should get Dan Campbell up to space.
Okay.
that might break the curse.
Josh, who was an aerospace engineer from Tennessee.
Josh Dobbs, quarterback.
Josh Dobbs. He may be the next NFL player astronaut.
You think?
He did an internship at NASA in the offseason, and he's got the right stuff, man.
No way.
I bet he is the next NFL or astronaut.
Good for him.
Besides you.
Yeah, well,
because you're going to go before him.
I'm like a friend of an astronaut kind of thing. You getting me in?
I got you the pass right there.
What about the movies, man? Because I was going to ask you, like, when you watch these space movies, I have a few favorites, but are there some that, like when I watch football movies, I'm watching it differently than...
Right.
Do any of them come close to actually...
Okay. So the movie that rocked my world, I love Contact, Matthew McConaughey, and is that one of your favorites?
No, but go ahead.
You got something about that?
No, I'm an Interstellar guy.
So Interstellar blew my freaking mind. Not in a good way.
Oh, fuck.
But I mean, I wasn't getting
in a good way.
I wasn't getting the books and the looking back. I mean, the whole time, the other dimensions of time. I'm not a, astrophysicist person.
Right.
A mechanical guy who does, hands, it blew my mind, man. Why did that blow your mind?
Well, I thought it was good, but again, like, I'm not an astronaut, so I don't know if any of this stuff's true. Like, he gets off on that planet, he gets off, and everybody else in the spaceship they were like, where the fuck have you been?
Right.
Which planet is it that we were just talking about, the planet, the
Venus.
cowboy, Venus, the
clouds.
Yeah. Well, but which one is it that,
you mean,
that if you get off on that planet, the
red spot?
Well, there's one red spot. Well, here I am telling you because I've got on Wikipedia. That red spot is a storm cell.
Yeah.
It's enormous.
Huge.
But what's the planet where their days are really long or whatever it is that would have are there any planets that would have somewhat of an effect that Matthew McConaughey, is there anywhere in space that you could go?
So Neptune and Pluto's no longer a planet because it got demoted.
That's fucked up. We can get to that.
It's a little bad, right? But it's because it's so far from the sun that its orbit around the sun. So we are at 365 days.
Right.
248 years for a day.
Yep.
Wow.
Think about that.
But a human being would die of old age
before they turn 2,
right? So like listen, Interstellar.
If you count it in years, if you're living your life in years versus days, then I guess you would die before you turn 2.
Yeah. Forget the McConaughey, mind bending kind of like pseudoscience.
But you liked it though.
I did like it.
I'm trying to understand why.
Why I liked it was a deep movie. It was a deep movie. I don't need it to be
right.
It's like you watching, I don't know. Well, if you played football, it's like them watching some football movie. Here you're critical of football movies and space movies. That's got to be a hell of a burden. It's like 33% of all movies.
That's true.
Is there one that you actually blew your mind in a positive way? Because they were relatively on top of it.
It was George Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
Gravity.
In Gravity.
Oh, shit.
So the Gravity was shot on a green screen. The whole movie was shot on green screen. And there was only one part of the movie that I'm like, who was the consultant on it? Who was the astronaut consultant on this? Because, when we launch from Florida, this is the planet, right?
Right.
I'm holding my fist.
Fist is the planet.
And we launch from west to east. So we launch this way. We're going around orbiting the planet from west to east.
Right.
When the space shuttle was coming up in gravity, it was going in the wrong direction.
No shit.
And I'm like, what the? Who?
Yeah, that's the most basic.
And I said, they need to get fired. Whoever did that. But that was the only thing because everything else it looked realistic to me. And, you had all of these, I guess it was the Chinese satellites they were exploding and all this debris was coming in, wiping out everything, and they had to figure out how to get over to the space station, then the Shenzhou, and but just how you overcame all of these obstacles to survive. And then when she came down, you saw Gravity, right?
Yeah.
When she came down, remember she was in the ocean, and she had on this parachute, and she was trying to get out of her suit, and she almost drowned.
Yeah, it's not even like, in all the other movies, you hit the water and you're safe. Everybody's just celebrating. Like, there's a whole nother set of... Like, when they hit the water, that's a motherfucker, too. That never goes perfectly, I would imagine.
Yes. But she had to swim and crawl and grunt and scratch to just live, man.
Yeah.
And that was powerful to me. That was pretty deep. And then everything looked like it looked when I was up there.
Yeah.
So she was floating through the space station. I'm like, hey, that's where I left that box of,
What was in the box? Well, so
you know.
Yeah. Well, it's a wrong Brad Pitt movie. The Ad Astra is the one I'm thinking.
Ad Astra. That was deep too.
Really, I really liked that movie. I didn't like. I thought Brad did a great job, and I loved the pacing of the movie and the way the moon scene was crazy.
Oh, with the rovers and
holy shit, dude. but I'm just watching it as a fan. We were talking about Gravity. You said
Contact.
Yeah, like being out there, like outside the space station. Like I remember some of those like kind of really riveting scenes. What's that? Is it just dead silent? Like what's space sound like?
If you were to listen to space outside of your suit, like in, I guess, what is it? A third of a second, you're dead. Because you're all the oxygen that's in your body is getting sucked out into the vacuum of space. So you're like imploding inside.
Yeah. So you're
not hearing. I mean, you might hear, something like that real quick, and then you're gone.
Yeah.
But there's no sound in space.
Not a bad way to go. Is that a bad way to go? You
Can you make that sound?
No. Yeah, that's me exiting my own body. So that's not the worst way to go.
But would you want to go like that?
No, I mean, but compared to some other like mundane bullshit, like like half a second,
tripping on a curb and hitting your head, and
give me the half second of oh shit, and I died in space.
But it wouldn't even be enough time to really realize that you're about to die.
That's the blissful part of it.
I guess
You're just permanently like, damn, I'm floating outside the ISS.
Yeah.
Fixing a fucking oil pan, dude, or like an oil tank here, dude.
A hydrogen tank.
Hydrogen tank. Of course, I get my vernacular down.
I'm here for you, man.
But what does it sound like if you had a recorder out there, like like spaces? We heard a black hole. Is it like the quietest? They get the quietest room in the world in Minneapolis. Have you heard about this place?
No.
Yeah, it's the quietest place on earth. People can't hang out there more than 5 minutes; they lose their mind. Maybe you could.
Why?
Be there
Because they're hearing their mind.
You're in your head.
So do you have any I have tinnitus. My ears are always ringing.
Yeah.
And in that room, I'd probably be like, it's amplified. Hearing my head speaking to me.
So you when you're in the suit, you're just hearing your breathing, and
you're breathing, and then they're talking to you.
Yeah.
At the same time.
That's so crazy.
Trying to tell you what to do and come in.
Here's one. How do you take a dump in space?
Very carefully, because everything floats.
Right, dude. Okay, so
you want to hear the story?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the R-rated pod, dude.
So I get to space, my first mission. I'm the chief medical officer in space.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor on the ground. I just play one in space, right? I got the training, and so I had to give out, the drugs and whatever to people that got sick, and to check on people if they were peeing and pooping, quickly. Because if you don't pee in time, your bladder fills up. You don't even feel it filling up, because when you pee on Earth, gravity pulls it down. There's a little sensor at the bottom that says, hey, I'm full, gotta go, take a leak. But up there, the urine is floating in your bladder. So you never get the sensation that you have to pee.
Until it's just too full.
Until it bursts. You may not even get the urine coming down to that sensor that tells you you're full. So if you haven't peed within like 2 or 3 days, you gotta get a catheter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it just drains all out.
You just gotta keep track of that.
So I'm the one keeping track of that for all my colleagues. I'm like, hey, have you peed? Have you pooped? Have you peed? Have you pooped? No one is checking on me.
You're like a parent.
Pee and poop, pee and poop, pee and poop.
Yeah, dude.
And so I'm there eating everything. I'm hungry. I'm just throwing down, eating. Yeah. And I haven't pooped in like 2 days. And so I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go. So you go in, you got to take all your clothes off and use the bathroom, because if something floats, you don't want to get it on your shirt and have to throw your shirt away.
Yeah, everything's white.
Right.
As I see in the movies, all the spacesuits are white. All the fucking.
We have like LL Bean, polo shirts on.
You got a thermal. Yeah. So you get leisure wear up there.
Leisure wear, right? Yeah. Comfy wear.
Yeah, good.
Comfy wear, yeah. So I'm in the bathroom trying to get this inaugural space poop off, and bro, it was like just kept coming, and the depth of the toilet's like this.
Yeah.
And my intestine is like this.
Yeah.
And it just, so I had to rise up off the toilet, and I looked back, and it was like a snake, like do like a snake charm. It was, it was just like this, and I had to get a glove and like break it in half and push it down in there, and it was about to be bad. Space? Oh yeah.
So is the smell more?
It's intense.
It's more intense because it's just like
it's
so like people in the Russian wing of the ISS are like, what?
No, but
the
this
fuck
is a space shuttle.
Oh,
so it's even smaller.
Space shuttle. Oh,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah. Our commander.
You gotta go outside, dude.
Yeah, like without a suit on. If you're bringing that kind of funk in here, you need to go outside with no suit, dude, and not come back.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It was bad, man. But
so the essentials then. You got to poop. You got to pee.
Right.
You have to drink water.
Lots of water.
Right. Yeah. And is that a challenge?
Because when you come back, you're so when your heart gets smaller in space, you're not having to pump as much blood.
Oh.
Right? Because gravity is not pulling the blood down to your feet.
You got to exercise, right?
You got to exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your face kind of puffs up a little bit because there's more fluid coming up from the bottom. But when you get back, if you don't fluid load, you pass out because your orthostatic pressure is very low, and you can't keep the blood up in your head.
Right.
So a lot of people that get hot and don't fluid load coming home, they start walking and they go, boom.
I was going to ask, like, when you come home, you were up there, you said, like a couple weeks,
right.
Which is a long ass time. I was reading about this woman who's been there the longest.
Sunny Williams, one of my classmates.
Okay.
She was there for like 200 days, but the guy, Mark Vanderhyde, just came back 355 days in space.
So this, I feel like you got to have a certain gene or personality.
Mindset, man. But you have the doctors, the shrinks, you've got your family you can talk to every day on a Zoom call. So you're connected to your people. It's just you're away from them. It's like you're in training camp for 8 weeks or 6 weeks or something, or on the road, or
yeah. But I can't go to the dining hall or to the hotel room.
We have a dining hall up there.
Run around on the football field.
No, we got a treadmill. We got a resistive exercise device that you're doing bench, squat, deadlifts, curls, overhead press.
Which of course looks much different in space.
It's just rubber bands that you're pushing against. And then you have a bike called a cycle ergometer.
Yeah. And
then a treadmill. Sunny Williams ran the Boston Marathon in space. She had her number and everything.
No way.
She did her 26.2.
I like to do 0.3.
I do too.
Yeah.
Me and you, man. 26.3 in space, while Karen Nyberg, who was another astronaut, ran it on the ground. And they were comparing their numbers while they were running. That was so cool. So cool.
She thrived, sounds like.
She's a Navy helicopter pilot, marathoner, and she was a triathlete too.
Rare human being. When she lands, it's 230 something days, or your friend's 300 something days. Like, how long does it take to feel normal again?
Yeah, for them, it's if you work out 2 hours a day, it used to be you lose bone density. So your bones would, because you're not loading your bones. Think about it. If you're on Earth, gravity tells you that you're loading yourself. You're getting forces. But up there, if you don't do resistive exercise, your bone morphology changes to where you're like osteoporotic.
Right.
And then you come home, you get stress fractures.
No shit.
So we had to have the resistive, the treadmill running because you're pounding, but a bungee is holding you down to the treadmill. Or you step and shoom.
That's crazy.
The shroom is floating off from the treadmill. For our listeners out there.
Yeah, it's a shroom. He did it with the hands and everything.
Shoom.
So I forgot to ask you about this movie, First Man. Did you see that movie at all with Ryan Gosling?
No.
So it's about The guys that went to the moon the first time.
Right. Did you like it?
I loved it. So you probably won't.
Why?
Because this was the first movie that I realized, and I don't know what you think about this from an astronaut branding standpoint. We grew up, and these astronauts are like, in my mind, my little astronaut figures and all that stuff, incredibly bright people, incredibly type A, amazing human beings, but I never thought of them as badass.
Right.
I think astronauts have like a branding issue where they should be thought of as like these absolute alphas that are like capable of pushing through anything, that are total like just like they're almost zealous,
superhero, invincible type.
Like, yeah, in their commitment to what they're doing. Like it's insane. And First Man was the first movie that
portrayed that.
That portrayed that.
Okay.
I think properly for me, because he was going in the spinning thing, he was going in the pools like you were talking about. Like it was intense, and
Right.
you know, he had lost a child and that sort of thing. He had
I did see that.
dealt with a lot of tragedy.
I fell asleep
and had to push through it. And see, for him, I mean, it's nothing like the real thing. But I love the movie First Man, and you know, like it made me think about the moon and all that stuff. I almost wore my T-shirt today. We landed on the moon. It was the second T-shirt from the top. It's a shame. I should have grabbed it. I forgot who I had in. But you know, there's a lot of people that still don't think we landed on the moon.
Oh my God! I did a series on the truth behind the moon landing.
Talk to me.
You know, there was one conspiracy theory that when they got out of the vehicle, how could there be so much light coming up on them? You know,
Right.
It was like they were very reflective, even though, you know, the regolith, the moon dust. If we did an experiment where we took something like moon dust and we shined the light on it, and it came up and illuminated the astronauts. And so we did a series of little tests to show that, you know, some people said the radiation would kill. Going through this path to the moon, the 3 days to the moon, the radiation would kill you. We did a little test where this is the amount of radiation you would feel.
Right.
It wasn't enough to take you out in, you know, that 6-day period or 4-day period. But I mean, the people that have these conspiracy theories about us going not to the moon, it makes me so mad, because the people that did go to the moon that I know, like John Young, he is like a living legend. He's one of the most honest people I know.
Right.
I mean, he wouldn't lie about anything.
Right.
And so that there was this huge conspiracy that John Young was lying. You know, Farm Boy flew every airplane known to humankind, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo program, walked on the moon, and I lived around the corner from him. I would walk my dogs by his house, say, hey, Leland, those some pretty dogs, man. Hey.
Yeah.
He's in gardening, you know, just, you know, guys that are just salt of the earth.
Yeah,
that are just,
it's almost personal.
Yeah.
Because you're like, bro, I know these people.
So for some chucklehead to tell me that my guy here didn't go to the moon,
Yeah.
it's like offensive to me. And then people that lost their lives trying to do this, like Apollo 1, you know? So you're kind of slandering the people that gave their life to make our civilization better.
Right.
Is what they're doing.
Right.
In my mind.
There's a guy on the moon that left a picture. One of the astronauts, Charles Duke,
Charlie Duke,
had left a picture on the moon, and they say that's going to last thousands of years just sitting there. Is that true? Because of the way it
So
would or would not.
There's no wind.
Yeah.
There's no atmosphere.
Right.
So there's nothing to make it tarnish or turn. I mean, the sun could make it fade, but it's not going to dissolve it. You know? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Without an atmosphere, nothing will rot or go away.
That speaks to the stillness up there.
You got to go, man. You want to get still?
I want to get real still, dude.
Then go to that room. Where is it, Ohio?
I'm going to go to Minneapolis first. And if I pass that test, I'm going to the moon.
Then you'll have the right stuff to go to the moon.
What's the coolest thing you've heard about the moon that people might not know from, you know, the movies or light reading from people that have been there?
Yeah. But I think the coolest thing is that when the Earth collided with this asteroid, I guess, which all of that stuff accreted and came together, and then the moon was a byproduct of that collision.
Yeah.
Our days, our rotation used to be like, something was only like 2 hours. Yeah. Our day
was 2 hours.
Was only 2 hours. and then it became 24 hours when the moon started moving further apart. So it guides our seasons, our tides, and it controls the frequency in which the Earth is turning every 24 hours.
If you control the ocean, like, you're spectacularly important and powerful. Like, if you can move the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean. I mean, think about it. 3/4 of our planet is water.
Yeah.
And the oceans.
Yeah.
And you got control over that.
Yeah.
Those tides.
Do you think that in the next 10 years there's going to be some private expeditions to the moon for private citizens, or are we going to colonize the moon? Is that something that, like, people still talk about and, like, realistically in NASA circles?
So there's an Artemis program right now. Artemis is going to send people back to the moon to live. And I know that SpaceX is building the lander. So anything that SpaceX is building for NASA, they could eventually build it for private citizens to go and take a lunar ride also. Would you go to the moon?
Yeah, but not to live. Not until I have to. I think we're going to have to at some point.
Why? Because of us decimating our own planet?
Idiots. Is it inevitable that we have to push off here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, 2050 is when we say if we don't turn it around, we're going to have this environmental catastrophe. Yeah, cataclysmic kind of thing. I'm just hoping people will, get hip to it and figure it out that we need to take care of. I mean, a lot of people are doing it now, and that I think we're talking about, I've got a diesel tractor and a diesel truck and a diesel Sprinter. We talked about these vehicles.
Yeah, we were comparing Sprinters.
Yeah, but I just got a Tesla.
Yeah.
Because I think the more of the driving I do with that, the better the hopefully environment will be. And we got to do something though, man. I would rather stay here than have to go somewhere else.
Oh, dude, people were talking about going to Mars. Can I just say this? I'm not really into Mars, dude.
Why not?
Looks too hot, looks too red. Would rather not be there. You know what I mean? I think it'd be hard to adjust to living on Mars. Are you as into Mars as other people are into Mars? Like, why are we so particularly interested in Mars? Why do we choose Mars?
Yeah, it's the besides the moon, it's the closest planet, right? And there's signs that there was, life there before, and water, lots of water.
Right.
So is there water in these huge canyons? I mean, they're underground caves that are, huge deep caves. Maybe there's water down there. I know that Nat Geo did a show called Mars, and the people lived underground, so they wouldn't have to worry about the dust storms. So we could have cities underground that we come up for, getting back home and back. But it's that's a possibility.
You said life.
Living.
I mean, when they say life on Mars, I mean like microorganisms.
The little red man.
Yeah, not little red man.
But do we know? We haven't talked about aliens yet.
What do you think?
So when I got to space, my second mission, I like to say, when I got to space, you have to say that. You're going to have to start saying that.
That's almost worth, like, going through the whole Ryan Gosling thing with the fucking thing. And come on, just to say when I went to space.
But we opened the payload bay doors of the space shuttle, right? That's one of the things we have to do. And we were looking in the payload bay, and there was this thing floating out of the payload bay. And it had curvature. It was translucent. And I was like, what is that? And I called Houston. I said, Houston, you don't want to say, Houston, we see an alien, because they get freaked, right?
You don't want to say we have a problem.
Yeah. You want to say, Houston, we have a problem either. You just say, Houston, we see something. It's translucent. It has curvature. It's slowly turning out of the payload bay, going up, from the shuttle. And we're trying to identify what it is. And they come back, does the curvature look like hoses? I was like, yeah. You know how like in Alien, when the alien creature had all those kind of curved, organic looking things? It kind of looked like that a little bit.
Yeah. And
they said, well, that's just the ice that formed on the Freon lines that are rejecting the heat from the shuttle to the doors, the panels. And it just broke off in one big piece. And then when it broke off, it probably just had a little rotation to it and just kept turning.
Right.
Because the turning made it look like it was moving out by itself.
Right.
But it was just ice.
It's easy to your confirmation bias to take over.
Yeah.
And be like, that's a living thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking for it.
You're looking for it anyway. So
you guys talk about it. You guys and gals talk about life up there.
Yeah.
You guys, like, when you're shooting the shit, you're like people trading stories about maybe something speculative.
Exoplanets.
Yeah.
We have planets out there we can't get to because we can't get there in a person's lifetime. So it's got water. We've seen water. We've seen temperature around the same as our planet. So with water and temperature, there's life, usually.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some type of life there that we haven't seen that's there, maybe evolving out of the ocean, maybe turning into something else. And I don't know.
What does multiverse mean?
Multiple universes.
So, like, I hear that a lot.
Like parallel universes.
Yeah, like basically there's so many, I don't know if I'm butchering this thing, but I hear people talk about, the possibility, and me, I'm gullible, I'll go with it, but like there are so many variations of where we live right now, an infinite,
and space is expanding.
Space is expanding.
Right. So a new universe is being grown out of this. Maybe that's what the multiverse is. As we grow space, we're getting these other verses.
Well, I mean, I'm like, who's to say there's not another planet just like this?
Well, I mean, we've identified there are planets that are the Goldilocks zone, right? Just right for life. We have those planets out there. We just can't get to them.
And that's in our purview.
Yeah.
Like, there's a ton we don't know.
Like maybe 10 light years away, there's a Goldilocks planet that's sitting out there.
How long would that take to get there for a human being? That's an exoplanet.
So 1 year, 10 light years. It takes you the speed of light, which is 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second squared. I don't know how many miles, but
hold on, let me do this calculation.
Yeah, do it. But the speed it takes, the distance it takes light to travel in 1 year.
Right.
So,
which to me seems very
it's a crazy
fast, not attainable for human beings.
A light year is approximately 6 trillion miles, so I guess 60 trillion if you're talking about 10.
60 trillion miles.
60 trillion miles means the same to me as 10 light years.
Bro.
No idea.
So think about this. People think we are in space and we're so far away. The space station is the distance from Washington, D.C. to New York, about 240 miles.
Right.
Which is nothing.
No.
The moon is 240,000 miles.
Right.
And the sun is 93 million miles away.
Yeah.
And this is 60 trillion. One light. What? I mean, how are we getting there?
We're not.
Right. Unless we get warp speed.
How do we
Star
unlock
Trek,
warp
baby.
speed, man?
Star Trek.
How do we do that? I didn't watch Star Trek.
You didn't watch Star Trek?
No, dude.
What's wrong with you, man?
I'm 37.
I know, I understand.
I'm not enough light years old to watch Star Trek.
But remember, if you saw Star Trek, they have this thing called the tricorder, and they just open it up and it makes this noise, and it's like a little cell phone.
Yeah.
We have that now on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So we have things that have come from space technology from the 60s. Now, science fiction became science fact.
Right.
We never went off the planet before. Now we're flying to. We have two satellites called Voyager 1 and 2. They were launched in 1977. They are at a place right now outside of our solar system. It's called the heliopause. It's where our sun has no influence on them. Like we have a solar wind that pushes. It's out of the range of our own sun, and it's like. They're past, but they've been flying since 1977, nuclear powered.
Unbelievable.
And they're still sending data back to us. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's eerie.
It's eerie but cool, right?
It
like
is
Interstellar cool.
Yeah, well,
Interstellar eerie.
Now you got me.
Interstellar eerie is what it is.
Talking into the Zoom, yelling at Murph.
And that was your favorite space movie?
Well, I'm a big Matthew McConaughey fan, so for me, I get swept up in the I'm not as into hey, is this realistic? It's
right. But Contact, then let's go back to Contact. Then He was Matthew McConaughey. He was in that movie.
Yeah.
You saw that movie, right?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen Contact. Yeah.
And that whole movie was about faith.
Yeah.
And because he was a man of faith that was trying to advise the president. Jodie Foster was an atheist.
Yeah.
Who was going on this space mission. And when you want me to tell you or not?
No, tell me. You can spoil it.
So when she went on this mission, she was gone for like, hours and hours and hours. It was like she was like teleported to this other alien place. But when you looked at someone filming it, she dropped through this thing like in 1 minute, and the mission was over in 1 minute. But she experienced it much longer than
like
that.
Matthew McConaughey's friends.
Right. So everyone said they faked it. It was a lie.
Right.
But then she and her deliberations in the court, they were like, but you got to have faith. Even though she was an atheist, you got to have faith.
Yeah, yeah.
And he backed her. And it was, dude, check it out.
That's why I asked you about that. And I'd never seen Contact because I just feel like.
Because you're 37.
Well, I'm 37. But also, like, if if something's in the Bible.
Right.
The Bible talks about things like there's nothing else but this.
Right.
And so, like, I know it must be for some a little bit of there's some cognitive dissonance there. Like if you're very faithful and you go up in space and you're like, well, if they had this whole thing figured out, we are such a small piece of this puzzle, But
the firmament, that's past space, though, isn't it?
Right. I don't know. I'm a theologist.
You're not?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I'm gonna do that after I go on the moon.
Well, that's after the multiverse.
Yeah, that's after the multiverse. I can hit you with the multiverse. But you talk about aliens and all this, life and space. Like, I feel like if somebody's coming down here and we spot a UFO, which, by the way, do you think all the UFOs are anomalies? Like, when they're like, oh, it's a flying object, can they all be explained? Like, how they go to, it's a balloon or it's...
Yeah, Area 51.
But these pilots are all, like, coming out and, I don't know about droves.
Some say they've seen them, some say they haven't. I mean, it's a mix, right?
But the people that have seen them... To your point, when you talk about your friend who you lived near in Houston, talking about walking on the moon, you've got some of these folks that have flown dangerous missions all over the world. They've done remarkable things, and they're saying, I saw something that's not fucking, it's not an airplane. It's hard. Of course, you can't accept it until you make contact with that aircraft and like confirm it.
Right.
But it's hard to ignore it.
No, I hear you. No, I mean, again, like the moon, right? You can. It's the argument both ways. Just because someone is honorable, did they not go up and do it because we were having this big ruse on trying to get money to do it? To say we went to the moon, we're going to keep going to the moon, so we need more money. But then they really hadn't been to the moon, but they're saying they went to the moon to get the money from the government to go to the moon.
Exactly. I mean, like, and if I'm pessimistic, depending on which way I look at it, I could write it all off. But I also think that some people think if aliens came down here, they just immediately land and do all this shit. If they came this far, they don't need us. They don't need this. If they came this far...
Maybe they need us as fuel or food.
Maybe, but they would have already eaten us, wouldn't they? I don't know.
It's maybe so.
It's a little trippy.
Or maybe they bit into me and they said, "Oh no, we don't want this."
That's pretty good.
That guy has this stuff floating out in space,
bro. The former football player. If you could go anywhere and see anything in our solar system, and you had the ability not to travel 10, trillion miles or whatever it is, and it was just like, hey, you had that Star Trek shit,
right?
Which planet would it be? Which moon would it be? Is there something that you're like, that sounds so...
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think I would want to be on the space station looking back at our planet with a zoom lens, seeing people getting the hell along, seeing kids from every zip code getting access, opportunity, and belief in themselves to rise. Because, we only have one planet that we can live on right now. And for me to make sure that we're taken care of before we go somewhere else is most critical. For your kids, for your grandkids one day, for my nieces, for my dogs.
Yeah.
Because...
Good looking dogs, by the way.
Well, thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The roadies, yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to take care of home base, man. If your guys aren't blocking for you, what's the use of even having a team? Yeah. So home team, home planet. Look back here, and now the second thing, if I were to go somewhere else, I would probably want to go to Mars.
Big Mars guy.
I believe we should go to the moon first and figure it out, and then go to Mars. Yeah. But I mean, when you explore, it's not the destination; it's the journey.
Yeah.
And it's the journey with who you go with.
Yeah.
So if you're with your boys and you're going on a journey, you're in the car, you're cruising, you got your stuff, you're having a good time. It doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah. Because
you're doing it together and you're finding out what life is all about and finding about who needs water before they get pissed off. And, you're finding all these things.
That's a really good scouting report that you guys did doing those little mole hikes, man.
Critical. Yeah. So it doesn't happen in space.
And know yourself.
Well,
Sun Tzu.
The other thing was I learned from that was self-care before group care. If you're out helping everyone else, getting their pack ready and everything, and you don't have your stuff together, and it's 9:00 time to go, and you're not ready, you just slowed everyone down.
Well, I think that's the same in like life, like family, friendship, business.
But we don't do it though.
We
don't do it.
Because a lot of people who are fairly driven are thinking of other people all the time,
right?
And you're not securing your life vest or whatever it is.
Put your oxygen mask on.
Put your oxygen mask on first. I think it's one of the best like life pieces of advice you could get is like you got to take care of number one. It's not inherently selfish to make sure you're solid before you run out and start saving the world.
But your bear cubs, you see your bear cubs first, right?
Yeah.
And you want to say,
you want to help,
guys, you gotta, and then
no question. How hard was it? We talked a little bit offline about this. You talked about like helping each other, and that's a nice kind of, message for people. How hard was it to be around all these really brilliant people, but encounter ignorance? When you first got to NASA, I mean, you told me some anecdotes. How can such smart people be so ignorant? And how many black astronauts were there before you?
Yeah, there were probably eight or nine.
Short-lived.
Yeah. I think, you can be as smart as a whip, but still have your isms, just because back in when I was working at NASA in Hampton, it's an electrical engineer. This guy came up. I was looking at buying this house. He was looking at the electrical panel. We pulled the cover off, and it was just crazy wiring, right? And the guy says, "Man, that looks like it was N-rigged. It was a nigger rigged." I was like, "What did you say?" I said, "That looks like it was." He said the same thing, and I wanted to see if he'd do it 3 times. He said, "Yeah, it looks like it was nigger rigged." I'm like, "Do you know who you're talking to? What do you mean?" Oh my God! I didn't realize what I was saying. But in where he was from in Tennessee, that was the word they used for shoddy, work.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any black friends, and so that was what was used.
Yeah.
So that's all he knew for shoddy work was nigger rigged. And I said, "Dude, if it had been someone else, you would have been on the ground with 2 less teeth if you had said that to the wrong person." But he was a good guy, he was a good guy, and I just knew he had not been exposed to a lot of people of color. But I wasn't going to hit him or anything, but I just said, that was a learning moment for him, preservation of life for him.
Yeah.
To not use that term anymore, around people that would jack him. But it's exposure, it's experience, it's...
But that's a very patient mindset.
It had to be. But to say it 3 times and not have the wherewithal to know who he was talking to. Now, if I'd been like a pipe-fitting... Remember that Ving Rhames in Pulp Fiction? That was before your time, too.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about Pulp Fiction the other day.
I'm going to get me a pipe-fitting medieval on your...
Yeah, that would be an ugly ass
That would be ugly, yeah.
Yeah, if you went Ving Rhames on him. Yeah.
Or just me Ving Rhames him.
Yeah. But there's still probably not enough representation.
No, it's... They're talking about sending the first woman and person of color to the moon in the Artemis program.
Yeah.
And I think there are people that are like, well, why are you sending them? Why don't you just send the best people? Well, there were 18,000 after The Martian. Did you see The Martian?
Yeah.
Matt Damon?
Yeah.
After The Martian.
Garden. He was way too fucking happy to be up there on Mars, in my opinion.
Did you like it?
You would have been that happy. You would have been like, I'm here, I'm on Mars. I got a garden and everything. I didn't love The Martian.
because of the poop and the potatoes?
No, I just thought it was too light. I feel like it's got to be harder to be on Mars. I feel like
no, dude, come on.
It's got to be heavier.
He got left for dead at the beginning of the movie. He had a puncture in him. He was sewing his body up.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's hard, but it was a Disney movie. It was a Disney movie. There was too many one-liners. There was too many, like, the whole theater's laughing. I'm like...
So you want it to be more like First Man?
First Man. I love First Man. I can't wait for you to watch First Man and absolutely burn it to the ground. I did see it,
actually. I saw it.
And disappoint. You're going to call me later and I'll be like, yeah, that movie sucks, too. The spinny thing, they don't even do that.
Yeah, they do. We just still do that.
Okay, you do
the centrifuge?
Yeah, centrifuge.
Yeah, we did. I did that. We all do that.
Did you puke?
No.
Does anybody puke while they're in there and they can't get them off? And it's just puke everywhere?
There's puke in the 0G airplane.
Yeah.
You're doing a parabola. You get to, like a roller coaster. You get to the top. 25 seconds of weightlessness, and then...
Yeah.
And then it's like just floating. Now, I puked in space.
Same thing with the poop?
It was different. So, I had the horrible poop situation thing going, and then when we got to space, I ate a ham sandwich. It was like underneath my seat, and I ate this ham sandwich. I was starving, and so I'm like, what's this? What?
Yeah.
I didn't feel sick, but I knew I had to throw up. And we have these bags that are preloaded in our shirt, and so we pull them. I pulled it out, but I missed.
Oh no!
And I had a Richmond Spiders hat on, University of Richmond Spiders hat. So the vomit went out of my mouth, hit the brim of the hat. So I'm like looking up from the mid deck up to the commander and the pilot, because other guys were down. They weren't feeling it.
Yeah.
Looking, and they're like, "Oh my God, Leland's down too." And I'm like, "Coach, I'm okay. Put me back in." With a vomit veil right in front of my face.
It's like just
it's
just
like
floating?
Looking through it.
It's floating.
It's floating because the brim of the hat pushed it back down to like right in front of my face. So I wiped it all off, got it all up, and then I'm looking back. Put me in, coach. I'm ready, man. I've got vomit in my eyebrows. I'm like, oh my God.
What's he exfoliating with?
Yeah, right. It's
that's
crazy.
just fucking unbelievable, dude.
Cleaned up and got back in the game.
Well, when I puke in space, I'm gonna handle it. I'm gonna make sure to turn my hat backwards.
Turn your hat and hit the bag.
Hit the bag.
You don't have to turn the hat back. You just hit the bag.
That's good. I gotta ask this question: has anybody ever had sex in space?
That's a very good question. Well, let me preface it with I did not.
No, you would have. You got a great poker face. That's a very good question.
But it is possible. It is possible.
If you had to guess, do you think anybody's gotten busy in space in the history of man?
Of humankind, right?
Of humankind. There's been a lot of spaceships up there now.
So if I had to say that someone had or had not...
Yeah, two single people on the ISS.
Or not single, I mean,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's zip code rules that I've heard people refer to. I mean, there's definitely... when you're...
What happens on ship stays on ship.
Yeah, what happens outside their atmosphere. And you can't be on one of those private, fucking Amazon space shuttles. They don't fly there.
Right.
You got to really be in NASA.
So you're saying, have there been NASA or other astronauts?
I just feel like somebody had to try it.
It's possible.
I'm setting the odds. You're a gambler?
I'm not a gambler.
What are we setting the odds at, Matt?
Plus 500, probably.
I was
plus 500?
Plus 350, which means 5 to 1 chance it hasn't happened. But if you take the money, if you take the dog, it might pay well. So yeah.
I'll do a little research and get back to you.
Thank you.
How's that?
Do the same thing on First Man.
Okay.
Okay, sweet.
Awesome.
How about this book before we let you go? Talk to me about the book. I just got my present.
Yeah.
I got my patch. I got a book.
Yeah.
I'm hyped.
It's Chasing Space.
Yeah.
It's living your life with grit, grace, and second chances.
Yeah.
And I've always had second chances, like getting a chance to fly when they told me I'd never fly. You know, when I was a kid, there was some stuff that happened to me as a kid that didn't tell my dad because I knew my dad would probably kill the guys that did what they did. But just this journey of, trying to do the things, extraordinary things from a simple beginning and journey, and all the people along the way that have helped, that if I didn't have this person in my life, that this thing wouldn't have happened. And so it's just a journey, man, of trying to live the best life and rise,
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
And you've got a TED Talk.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was
you got a book and TED Talk.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, to be able to say what you want to say to help inspire and motivate other people. And the whole thing about the TED Talk, it was just about how we can overcome obstacles. I mean, you work with a lot of people to help them get through tough times and things, and get guys to the top of a mountain, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Yeah. And how we can all help people rise and make the world a better place. That's what it's about. Maybe
you join me one year. We were bullshitting about.
No, maybe I am.
Okay. Hey, if an astronaut says he's going to be somewhere, I feel like he's going to be somewhere. So, Leland Melvin, thank you for the time, man. This has been awesome. You got to come back more. We could probably do 10 hours of this, but I know we have.
So you watch Contact.
Yeah.
I'll watch First Man without falling asleep. And then we'll have a little discussion.
That's good, man. All right. That sounds good,
awesome.
bro.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you.
Likewise.
I appreciate it. It's been a good time.
Very fun.
Good to have a friend in studio.
There we go.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.